If you were born in the 80s or maybe in the 70s or the 60s, you're about to hear some names and memories that might ring a bell. Stories we probably didn't quite understand back then. But if you were born in the 90s or 2000s, then the name Lockerbie might be a bit unfamiliar to you. In any case, this story has a good dose of suspense and intrigue. So let's dive into the events of Lockerbie. All right, let's go. Today we are going to travel back in time, and specifically to December 21st in the year 1988, which is more than 33 years ago. On that day, a rather mysterious incident that occurred that took the world by surprise. It started with a regular passenger plane, precisely a Boeing 747. The aircraft belonged to Pan Am Airways, which was an American airline company, as the name suggests. This plane, my friend, departed from Frankfurt Airport in Germany, heading to John F. Kennedy Airport in New York, USA. The flight, however, had a layover. It was scheduled to stop midway to pick up some more passengers at Heathrow Airport in London, UK. The plane landed safely at Heathrow and people boarded on time. 259 passengers in total, including crew members. The flight procedures were all perfectly in order. And flight number PA-103 took off exactly at precisely 6:20 p.m. London time, which is equivalent to around approximately 4:20 p.m. Cairo time. Barely 35 minutes into the flight, then the plane was suddenly blown up in the sky above a small rural village located in Scotland, one of the countries of the United Kingdom. The village is known as Lockerbie. The village was shaken by a real, truly devastating explosion. This was a catastrophe, a true, genuine and real catastrophe. There's no cinematic scene that could portray it for you or convey to you the magnitude of the explosion the way it really was. But just imagine a plane of that size, with so many parts flying far from the crash site, and after the explosion, what was left of it came down crashing on the village, creating a crater about 560 cubic meters of displaced earth. Can you imagine that? 1,500 tons of plane parts burning on the outskirts of Lockerbie village, destroying 21 of the village's homes and tragically taking the lives of 11 of its residents. Add to that the 259 passengers who were on the plane to make a total of 270 people killed in the crash, most of which were American citizens.
Abuda, I swear to you, I always wanted to know about the Lockerbie story since the days of the Second Arab Revolution. Go on, my son, go on. May God calm your soul. Continue.
All right, as soon as the plane crashed in Lockerbie, my friends, the investigations began. Where's the black box of the plane? And why did the plane explode in mid-air? What exactly happened? Then the British and the Americans joined forces and started working side by side at the explosion site. They combed the entire area, and from there, they collected more than 10,000 pieces to reconstruct the plane as it was, or rather, what was left of it, so they could eventually conclude that this plane had a primitive bomb planted inside it. It was connected to a radio device and placed in one of the bags that were loaded onto the plane. As soon as it received the corresponding radio signal, boom, it exploded.
But excuse me, brother, aren't these bags supposed to be inspected before being loaded onto the plane? I also heard that the bags go through machines so advanced they can see even an ant and what's inside it. So how could something like that get through? I don't understand.
That's exactly the question, Essam. Who could possibly manage to get something like that through unless they had backing from
whom, my son?
From America's enemies, uncle. Actually, the Americans had many conflicts going on at the time. The date now is December 1988. Just 6 months prior, the US military shot down a civilian Iranian aircraft during its flight over the Persian Gulf, killing everyone on board. 290 passengers, along with crew members, passed away. An American said at the time, "We accidentally launched 2 missiles. We actually thought it was a military or hostile aircraft." And even though the US paid $131 million in compensation to the victims at the time, it never apologized or took responsibility for this tragedy. That's America for you. We covered the full story in detail in the episode about Iran and the Americans, but that makes Iran a major potential enemy. The tragedy became a matter of revenge and honor for the Iranians.
So who are the other enemies, Aboud?
Well, there was also Libya, which was ruled by Muammar Gaddafi. Before the Lockerbie plane bombing in '88, there had been a series of Palestinian commando operations abroad targeting those who supported the Zionist state. And at the top of the list was, of course, America. Among the groups carrying out operations outside of Palestine was one group called the Abu Nidal Organization. At the time, Gaddafi was providing this group and many other organizations with unlimited support. They carried out many operations worldwide, like the TWA hijacking, the Rome airport attacks, the Vienna airport attacks, and others. So America decided to go after Gaddafi in 1986. And brazenly, they went into the Gulf of Sidra, located in Libyan territories as you're seeing right in front of you. And they told Gaddafi, aren't you the one supporting them? All right then, from now on, I'll be conducting military exercises here in international waters without your permission. Gaddafi replied, what about international law and border agreements, guys? These are not international waters, you're within Libyan territory. The American replied, from that day on, there was no law. I am the law. All those treaties and laws, my dear, you can just tear them up and make a nice smoothie out of them. The American military forces stroked directly inside the Gulf of Sidra, and they indeed sank 2 ships, causing the tragic death of more than 35 Libyans. Later that same year, there was an explosion in a nightclub in Germany, mostly frequented by American soldiers. And of course, most of the casualties were US citizens. Immediately and without hesitation, the US pointed the finger at Libya, without a second thought.
Well, what were the Americans doing in Germany in '86, son? Don't think you can fool me with any stories. I am very alert and I won't let your lies slide by.
Since the end of World War II in 1945, there have been American soldiers on German soil, and that's up to this very day. For the first 10 years, the Americans were occupying Germany, but that changed after the NATO agreement. The point here is that there are American military bases in Germany until today. After the nightclub bombing, the US wanted revenge, so they sent their military aircraft to bomb Tripoli and Benghazi, killing around 22 Libyan citizens. So at the time, the US was in conflict with Iran, with the Palestinian factions, and with Libya. Then on April 14, 1991, the US comes out and says, no, actually, the Palestinian factions and Iran are out of the picture, and the one responsible for this Lockerbie bombing is Gaddafi's Libya. And that was through 2 operatives working at an airline company in Malta, one of whom was named Abdelbaset al-Megrahi, and the other was named Al-Amin Khalifa Fhima. So basically the claim was that these 2 were the ones who smuggled and passed the bomb, getting it onto the plane before it took off. And of course, the Lockerbie case at the time became a global issue because it involved 3 major countries, Germany, the UK, and the US. And on top of that, there were a few other nationalities among the passengers who were on the plane with the Americans, meaning whoever gets blamed for it will no doubt be charged with international terrorism. Yeah, Gaddafi denied the charges and refused to extradite Megrahi and Fahima. He told them, if you have evidence that they were the ones who did this, either publish the evidence or send it to us through official means, and we will try them here on our own soil. Then America arrogantly told him, no, we have no evidence, but we'll still take them and try them for the bombing. To which Gaddafi replied, go bang your heads against the wall, we won't hand anyone over. You dare defying America? International community, come see what this guy is doing. Aren't you my friends and my allies? The international community asked, what's up, America? Evil Libya hit me and denies my rights. Will you allow that? No, of course we will not allow that. So what do you want us to do? America replied, cut Libya off economically, militarily, starve, and isolate its people until it succumbs. And so it was. On March 31st, 1992, an economic embargo and air blockade were imposed on Libya. No exports or imports, no trade, except oil. Oil is essential. Citizens require gasoline and diesel, and they won't let us be if we increase oil prices. So I'll cut you off from everything and anything except oil.
So then what, Abuda, what did Libya do?
Gaddafi's Libya held out and endured the blockade from the years 1992 to 1999, so that's a full 7 years. During these blockade years, Libya lost more than $33 billion. The democratic America punished an entire nation, its agriculture, industry, healthcare, transportation, and infrastructure because of its arrogance and insistence on having its way. The entire Libyan people paid the price through unemployment, inflation, and poverty until Gaddafi finally decided to hand over Megrahi and Fahima in 1999. This was mediated by Saudi Arabia and South Africa, and the agreement was that they would be handed over to a neutral country where the 2 will stand trial. The Netherlands was chosen as that country. Indeed, Megrahi and Fahima arrived on April 4th, 1999 at Camp Zeist in the Netherlands. The entire trial proceedings were public and broadcast live and on air on national television for the full 2 years. During the trial, while the verdict was still pending, the air and economic embargo on Libya was lifted, and the final verdict was issued on January 31st, 2001, acquitting Fahima and convicting Megrahi. Megrahi's conviction was based on the testimony of a shopkeeper who said that Megrahi had bought from him a pair of trousers that was found in the suitcase containing the explosives. And based on this extremely solid piece of evidence, Megrahi was sentenced to life imprisonment. Just think about it, this shopkeeper sells to dozens or even hundreds of people a day, and he supposedly remembered someone who bought a pair of trousers from him 10 years ago. Truly an uncontested evidence, right? And based on this irrefutable proof, Libya was of course forced to declare responsibility for the incident in 2003. Libya also had to pay compensation to the victims' families, that is $10 million per victim, with a total of around $2.7 billion.
10 million for each person. Wow. They can also take Essam and give me a cow for 8,000. I could at least benefit from its milk instead of him sitting like a brick here all day long, not even making 20 pounds a day.
What about all the compensation that Egypt paid to the Mexicans who were killed by the army in our western desert a few years ago? Remember?
You know what, my son? The memory gets really weak with time. There is no God but Allah.
And Egypt will probably pay the same again in a few months or a year at most to that Italian researcher Regini. Did you forget him too?
Who's there?
But the important thing here is to say that Libya's payment of that money actually served a major interest for Libya, because it was indeed losing more than that amount every year due to the international sanctions. So basically, the ransom was paid once, and Libya became a neutral state and was removed from the equation. Moreover, Libya also handed over documents for its nuclear program, which was overseen by Abdelkadir Khan. And as for Mr. Megrahi, he was in Scotland and was released on August 20th, 2009, after Libya paid the compensations. It was said that the reason for his release was that he had prostate cancer and that it was a humanitarian release for health reasons. He was received in Libya in 2009 with a welcoming ceremony. Megrahi passed away 3 years later in 2012 in the country of Libya. 2 years after Megrahi's death and 3 years after Gaddafi's death, and specifically on the date of Tuesday, March 11th, 2014, Al Jazeera English released a documentary film that hit like an unexpected thunderbolt from the sky. Telegraphs and leaked documents from US intelligence, along with testimonies from investigators, proved the innocence of Megrahi, FEMA, and Libya as a whole from this accusation. And that it was in fact Iran, my friends, that made the decision in 1988 and fully funded the operation, which was assigned to Ahmad Jibril, a leader in the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine in Syria. Al Jazeera also included the testimony of Abu al-Qasim Masbahi, a former Iranian intelligence agent, who said that Iran was the one that chose the method of retaliation and the flight number, so that the number of passengers on the plane to be targeted would match the number of passengers on the Iranian plane that crashed in the Gulf in 1988. The documentary also featured the testimony of Robert Baer, a former CIA officer who said that involving Libya at the time was actually the easier option. Gaddafi was already an internationally disliked figure, so they went down the easy path, just like that, in all simplicity. And then the US comes back again in November 2021 to bully Libya once more. Libya, which is still barely catching its breath. America asked for a third suspect in the case named Abu Aguila Muhammad Masood, claiming that he was the one who made the explosives in 1988, the same explosives that were used in the bombing. So we end up going back to the same cycle all over again, creating yet another mess, like a stew of fish, milk, and tamarind. And it all ends in confusion, chaos, and ambiguity, where you can't tell where the truth lies or who holds it, why those people had to die, and why the ones who paid the price had to pay it, and for what crime. Just a bunch of political decisions made by the emperors of the economy, backed by multinational corporations, while we the people are swinging with the wind and the breeze, being played like chess pieces. Iraq is invaded for supposedly having a nuclear weapon, and it turns out they didn't have it to begin with. Libya is the one held accountable and end up paying for Iran's bill. Syria was a testing ground for American and Russian weapons, and right next to them you find Iran casually strolling along the sidelines. A time when you can't even tell who's fighting whom or who is heading where and why. It's like a giant puppet theater, a chaotic mess. And in the midst of all this noise and madness, all you can do is look at them and recall the words of the Prophet, peace be upon him. By the one who holds my soul in his hand, the world will not end until a time comes when the killer does not know why he killed, nor does the one who is killed know why he was killed. Indeed, the Messenger of Allah truly spoke the truth. And that's it, believer. Assalamu alaikum